In this video, we're going to discuss food. Yeah, I'm sorry to all my American friends out there who just celebrated Thanksgiving yesterday and probably don't want to talk about food right now, but for the rest of us, we're going to talk about food. So food's just a behavior that I haven't covered. It's fairly simple, but it's pretty useful in a lot of different genres. And so let me just explain what I've set up here. I've set up a little Friendsgiving feast for you all to enjoy. And I've got a hunger bar there at the bottom. And you can see I'm getting a little hungry. I'm still waiting for my guests to arrive. And so I'm going to just have myself a little snack. Maybe I'll just have one of those bananas here. Let me just get the icon to show up. And then I can press E. And you can see that consumed the food. And my hunger bar went up a little bit. And that's basically food. I mean, not much really to say about it. But let me talk about how to set up the parameters for that, okay? Food, like I said, pretty simple, but there is one caveat or one distinction that I want to make because there is another behavior called eat. And I've covered that in a previous video, and I want to point the differences out between the two because it would matter as far as which one you'd want to use. So let's just talk about food for now, and then I'll talk about the distinctions. So first you have the prompt text, which is just what it's going to say when you cursor over that item. Now, if it's a collectible item, you have an option. So if it's just consumable, and just like what I had when I pressed E, it consumed the item, then you see E to consume. Otherwise, you would see E to collect, and you can pick it up. If you have an inventory, you can put it in your inventory and eat it later. So that's the distinction really between food and eat, whereas eat would act just like you would eat it right off the table. There is no option to collect it. There's another distinction we'll talk about here in a moment, but that's a really important first distinction when it comes to food versus eat. Then you have the usage text, which is just what is it going to say when you've consumed the food. It says food consumed in my case. I just left it the default text. You can have it say whatever you want. The quantity refers to the amount of replenishment that you're going to get at whatever user global you happen to be using, right? So in my case, I had a hunger bar that was equal to 100 max, and I had it set to 50. And so when I consumed the food, I gained 25% back. This is just a banana. Pickup range, as always, how close do I need to be to the object in order to pick it up or to consume it or to use it? Then you have the pickup style. It's either accurate or ranged. Accurate means I need to point at it and interact with it with the E button. Ranged means I can get within the 80 unit range and it would just consume the item, which in this case probably wouldn't make a lot of sense unless you were just super hungry, I guess. I can feel that way at a buffet sometimes. And then there's the effect. So we don't just have to get to add to a user global. We could also deduct from user global. So I'm adding to fill my hunger bar up, right? But I could also reverse that and reduce the amount of hunger that I have. Either way, whatever makes sense for the setup that you're doing. Then you have the user global affected. You just select from the drop down. You do have to set up that user global ahead of time so you can find it in your drop down, but then you can select it, and that's the user global that it's going to affect. The prompt text, you have two options. You have either the screen, which is where it's going to display on the screen, in this case bottom center, or local, meaning local to the object. So whichever you prefer. Personally, I prefer bottom of the screen, but that's just my own personal preference. You have the item highlight options. So with a lot of interactable objects these days, he's incorporated these highlight options. So you have none, which means you would just get like a cursor indicating that it is at least, interactable, but you would get nothing else, no other indication. Or you can get shape, which would be a glow of the shape of that object, an outline, which would be a little yellow outline around that object, or an icon. And if you choose icon, then you can select what icon displays when you cursor over the object. And this one just looked like it would be appropriate, even though I wasn't eating the apple, I was eating the banana, but you get the idea. And then lastly, we get to the sound slots. And this actually brings me to one of the other distinctions that I wanted to point out. So the first sound slot is the consumption sound. So that's just the little mouth snacky sound that you heard when I consumed the object. If it's a collectible object, you could also put in a collection sound, and that would indicate that you've picked it up and put it in your inventory. But then here, the last sound slot, sound 2, which is the third sound slot, is for poisoning sound, which I found interesting because there is no poisoning effect in the behavior. I don't know if that's an oversight or if it's maybe meant to indicate like why your status went down. So in other words, if I ate rotten food, maybe my hunger would go down instead of up, right? Indicating that I ate rotten food and it's made things worse for me. I don't know. I'm going to point it out to Necrom and see if maybe he can add the poisoning effect. And let me show you what I mean by that. If we change this behavior, to eat, right, then we have a poisoning effects tick box right here. And that adds kind of a little wobble to the character and, other effects that would it's temporary poisoning, but it's poisoning nonetheless. And so that is absent from the food. So that's another distinction between food and eat that's important that I wanted to call out. But I am going to call that out to Necrom and see what he intended on that. But for right now, just understand that it doesn't currently have the poisoning effect tick box there. And so I guess view that as you will. But if it shows up, then it's just he decided to add it. So we'll see. But that's it. That's the food behavior explained. Pretty simple one for today, but you know what? It's the holidays, so I'm kind of taking it easy. If you enjoyed the video or if you learned anything new, please be sure to click the like button. That always helps me out. If you're new here or if you just haven't subscribed yet, would love to have you stick around. And then lastly, if you'd like a notification for whenever a new video is posted, just click the bell icon and that'll let you know when a new video is ready. Thanks so much for watching all the way through. I always appreciate that, and have a wonderful holiday season. Take care. Hey, don't forget, there's written documentation on every behavior, even the ones I haven't covered yet, in video format on my website at www.bloodmooninteractive.com. Be sure to check that out. And if you'd like to learn more, maybe check this video out next.